Hey there, it's Andre here with season two, episode one, with special guest Peter Shankman, who is an author, entrepreneur, and futurist in residence at Price, Benowitz, and Blue Shark Digital. You also should recognize his name as he's the author of Faster Than Normal book, and he's also the host of the Faster Than Normal podcast. Thanks, Peter, for this and to launch season two of the Impulsive Thinker podcast.
Glad to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
You have been a big proponent and advocate for ADHD as being a strength and not a disability or a negative. And how did you come to this realization? Because you were undiagnosed for a while, then got diagnosed with ADHD later as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, it was always sit down, interrupting the class disease. And as I get older, I realize that all these things that I'm doing that seem pretty weird and probably are pretty weird to everyone else, they seem to be working for me. And I just sort of kept that in the back of my mind. And then one day I got diagnosed, and I'm like, well, everything makes sense now. All this shit totally makes sense. So, for me, it was learning those things I did that seemed to benefit me. Once I had a name for sort of what I had, I realized that those things weren't weird things. They were just a strategy. They were my strategy in the way that I was able to survive and thrive. And so that's what I did.
Okay, so you just said that you did a bunch of strange things. And strange in what context?
Well, I mean, in multiple ways. The concept of getting up early in the middle, getting up in the middle of the night to start exercising before my day started just because it made me feel better. I didn't realize I was getting dopamine at the time. I just realized I was a happier person when I did it. Not running for 30 years, being a smoker for 30 years, quitting smoking, deciding one day to do a 5K, doing a 5K, and then saying, okay, that was fun. Let's sign up for an Ironman. When normal people don't do that shit, right? Going skydiving once with a group of people, having a blast, and then instead of just saying, okay, checking that off the list, going and getting my license, right? And I have over 500 jumps. So, it's those type of, it's very much an all or nothing thing. Or, for people like us, there's really no middle ground. As I put it, I have two speeds. I have namaste and I'll cut a bitch. And there's, so being able to sort of understand why was very
revealing.
Sort of helped a lot.
Yeah.
It was very revealing. Yeah, and it helped a lot to sort of give me the credibility I needed in my own mind to be like, okay, just keep doing your own thing.
So, and the other thing too, are you also saying it was strange in other people's eyes also?
Well, always, and as you grow up, a lot of, whether we like it or not, a lot of what we're trained to do as we grow up is be like everyone else, and the funny thing there is that you don't want that. You want to be, in the real world, the people that are different win everything, not the people who are just like everyone else. But especially in schools, public schools, whatever, it's be like everyone else, sit down, shut up, answer the questions, learn the process. And so when you're different, it's not really the teacher's fault per se, but the teachers are in a position where they don't have the resources to teach the quote unquote normal brained kids, and then 3 or 4 faster brained kids in the room as well. Correct. So they sort of have to merge the faster brained kids into the normal kids, and that's difficult for everyone, right? So as such, they teach you, hey, become normal, become like everyone else. And I'm very fortunate that I never got that beaten out of me. I was able to sort of continue to do my way, and for good or for bad. It wasn't easy. A lot of it sucked. A lot of it was horrible. But over time, I was able to get better, and learn what it was from, and learn why it was beneficial, and never really quit, despite getting these constant comments from people that oh, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? But eventually, I started realizing, hey, this is the best thing for me.
Right, and the thing you just said there, you never really quit, I think is a common trait with a lot of high achieving ADHD entrepreneurs. I get this all the time. You just never know when to quit. Well, I can't. I just have this thing. I just can't.
I also didn't have a choice, right? So I had one job in my life. I worked for America Online. When I quit that job, I went to my second job where I worked for like 2 weeks for a magazine. And AOL was great because they didn't care when you worked. It was the first real tech company. They didn't care where you worked. Just get in there, do what your job. You want to work at 3 a.m. Great, just get shit done. And then I got to my second job. I'm like, okay, we'll see you at 8 o'clock. And there's a meeting at 8:30, and a meeting at 9 o'clock, and at 9:30 you have this, and at 12 o'clock you have half an hour for lunch. And this, I'm like, this is Russia, right? And that was not okay. And so I quit. And I said to my dad, I'm like, I quit. And he's like, well, now what are you gonna do? He's like, that was stupid. I'm like, no, I'm gonna start my own PR firm. And I remember saying, I'm like, when it fails, I'll just get a job. Not even if it fails. When it fails, I just assumed that failed.
I said the same thing too. I can always get a job.
And it's been fortunately, it's continued, and we're now 24 years since I had to get a job. I haven't had to get a job, so I've been very lucky.
I like to say I'm unemployable, so it's hard for me to work for other people.
Exactly.
So, so this PR firm, what was the name of that place? Was that the first company you started?
The PR firm was the first one I started. It was called the Geek Factory, and it was me and myself, and I had about 5 clients at one point, and then I grew it, and I had about 25 clients and like 4 employees. I sold it to a larger agency. I walked away. I consulted for several years, and eventually, of course, came up with the idea for Harrow.
And Harrow is?
Harrow is Help a Reporter Out, and that was sort of the game changer for me. That was it connected journalists with sources all around the world. It still does. It's owned by PR Newswire, and it allowed me to it changed my life radically when it was acquired less than 3 years after I started it. So that was pretty cool.
So how did it radically change your life?
Well, in New York City, you can do really well and make a lot of money, but if you're renting a place, you're living in what's called renter's lock, which is where you spend so much money on this gorgeous apartment that you're renting that you can never really afford to put money away for a down payment to buy something. So when I sold the company, all of a sudden I had money for a down payment, and I had money to buy my apartment that I'm in right now, overlooking Manhattan. So that was one thing, but also, it put me in this different class of people. All of a sudden I was the guy who sold a company for millions of dollars, and people wanted to know about me, and they wanted to hire me, and they wanted to hear me, and they wanted to have me speak and things like that. So that allowed me to get much better book deals, and my 3rd, 4th, and 5th books were much more well received. I had 3 bestsellers. It's allowed me to make some investments in other companies, things like that. So it was sort of a game changer for me. But again, it came down to the fact that I found something I enjoyed doing, and I just threw everything I had into it.
So what would be your biggest ADHD challenge as an entrepreneur?
I think one of the key challenges for me is to understand what I'm good at and focus on doing that, and outsource everything else, right? And I know we're going to talk about that another time, but the premise of understanding what you're good at, and then that's number one. And then number 2, I'd say also to stop caring what other people think, to live your life the way you see fit, and to understand that the only people you have to please are the only ones you have to please, and to not care about what other people are going, people who don't pay your mortgage, or people who don't have any relevance to your life. I can give a speech to 10,000 people, and 9,999 of them will stand up and applaud, and that to me will be phenomenal. And then one person won't, and that's the one I'll think about for 5 days, right? And so that imposter syndrome needs to go away, and it's hard. It's very hard to get that to disappear when you're so used to it and you expect it, And so being able to work every day on putting that out of your head is very useful. And it's a challenge, though. It is definitely a challenge. You have to constantly focus on doing better.
So the imposter syndrome, that's a big one for many, many people. A lot of listeners here I guarantee we're all imposters in our mind. What tricks or what mindset do you have to kind of overcome them? From what I heard is it never goes away. We just got to keep it at bay.
Yeah. I mean, you keep it at bay and you keep working on it, and it does get less and less, but it's always going to be there. I think the key is to focus on the positives. The key is to focus on the people who do say good things, and to try and let those things out in the universe, and sort of not focus on the few bad things. It's not always easy, but at the end of the day, you want to be able to I had a therapist once who told me that, I used to spend all these time, every time something good would happen to me, I'd think back to the kids who used to bully me in junior high, and I'd be like, oh, wish they could see that now. Look at how much better I am now. And my therapist by doing that, what you're doing is you're not allowing yourself to enjoy the moment that you're in right now. And that was like a massive wake up call, right? Focus on the good stuff that's happening, and screw the rest of it.
So enjoy the moment you are in right now. That's a big one, because like a lot of our brain doesn't, it's now or not now. But even if we're working on now, we're not necessarily present, focusing on the moment, which I think is
exactly. We're trying to think about not now. So, and that's the thing. There are 2 kinds of time with ADHD. There's now and not now, which isn't a bad thing in a lot of ways, because it means that you're going to focus on what you're working on. But the flip side is that you do tend to focus on stuff that's not really there as well, right? Oh, what if this happens? What if that? Stop thinking about the what ifs and just focus on what's right in front of you right now.
Actually, I like that restructuring. I think of the not now is a bunch of what ifs. I think that's
Yeah.
a key connection there for a lot of listeners, and that's new to me, and that makes a lot of sense to me. So I got to ponder on that one a little more. So fantastic, fantastic. All right, we just talked crap about ADHD right now, and I've always said, if we can just manage our symptoms, or like you, if you just work on what you like to do and outsource the rest, we don't need to really work hard to hyper focus. So our ADHD does become a strength. So what is your ADHD quote unquote symptom that is your strength, or that you transformed into a strength?
I mean, there's several, but I think one of the best ones is the ability to go full force into something. I remember when I came up with the idea for Help a Reporter Out, I launched the company within 2 days, and no sitting there and doing research, no audience participation. I just like, oh, here's an idea, boom, gone. And
Yeah.
within 48 hours we had clients, and in 3 weeks was making money. It's like that. Again, that concept of all or nothing can be a really great thing. The key is that you put rules and regulations into your life that allow you to go all or nothing and still not go off the rails. When your brain works at 150 miles an hour, that's great as long as you have full control of the car. If you're driving that car at 150 miles an hour and you know exactly what you're doing and you have control over it, the chances of you crashing are minimal. But once you go off the rails, right, then that's when things start to go downhill. So the key is to figure out a way to allow yourself to do the right things and not go off the rails.
Right. And for me, I create a lot of routines, habits, or like in my ADHD office here, there's nothing here to distract me. Just what I need to work in is here, and everything else is stored outside. So a little bit of control environment, outsourcing stuff you're not really good at. Yeah, and habits. Is it habits and routines you kind of get in? Like you get up very early in the morning, get your exercise, dopamine kick. The other thing you talk about too is getting your dopamine kick. I think it would be very beneficial.
I know exactly what works for me and what makes my brain better and makes me work better. And for me, that is almost always exercise first thing in the morning. I was on my bike this morning at 5:15. I didn't want to do it. My daughter's first day of school. I was lazy, whatever. And I woke up and like, you know what? I was going to do an hour and a half. Let's just do 30 minutes. Let's do something. Right. And just that 30 minutes was enough to get me through the morning and to get me through, taking her to school and smiling and, dealing with all the parents that I can't stand and just like, putting on that happy face and not telling them to go fuck themselves, whatever. So it allowed me to sort of get through that with that happy face. And that wouldn't have happened if I didn't have that dopamine that came from working out.
Right. What's the one piece of advice you'd like to give to our listeners?
If you don't like where you are, move. You're not a tree.
Wow. That's true. If you're not happy, what's the point of staying?
100%.
And that would really affect your emotions, your emotional dysregulation, and your personal confidence, right? Why are you going to be in a place that you're not happy with? Are we going to say something?
No, I was just 100% agree with you. I mean, I think that we spend a lot of time. I know people who have spent years complaining about the situation they're in, yet can you imagine what they could have done if they just devoted some of that energy they spent complaining to changing the situation?
Right. And what do you think that is? Why can't people?
I think some people like to complain. I think some people, I get my dopamine. You get your dopamine from exercise. Some people get the dopamine from complaining. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I get it.
Well, but neurobiologically, that's true. You're creating chaos. You're creating a reason to get interest.
But it's not
on
the
negative side. It's not a positive.
It's not the best way to get the chemicals you need. Exactly.
Correct. Right. It's like, either you get exercise and feel good about yourself, or some people will use drugs or alcohol to find that happiness. Kind of a weird scenario, but a thing. But either we do it in a positive way or a negative way. I think really dictates which way you're going to go. If that makes sense to anyone. So, your book, Faster Than Normal, the first time I bought it many years ago, and I thought it was a quick way to do things quickly. I never saw that ADHD word on it. Then I bought it a couple of years ago and read it last a few months ago. And I got to say, that is a very good, clear and succinct way to describe ADHD, especially with the entrepreneur. And it's not a symptom, but it's a strength. And I really like how you flip that around for people and how it's challenging. What I really liked about you wrote, it's still challenging, but it's doable. And this is how it can be done. And don't be ashamed of it. And that's the big message I got. So if you, the listener, haven't read it, I highly recommend you get his book, Faster Than Normal. It'll be in the show notes, the link. And also your Faster Than Normal podcast, where you share a lot of other people's stories with ADHD and ADHD related things, and very short, sweet episodes, quick to the point, and also a great resource. I also recommend you, the listener, to also add him to your podcast favorites. And Peter Shankman is known across the world as one of the first advocates of ADHD. And how and why did you decide to do that?
I think for me, it was very tough growing up for me. Not, my parents were great, but it was tough being that different kid all the time. And so I think for me, being able to show that there is success and there is possibility, if I can change, one 12-year-old's life who thinks he has no future, then that's worth everything.
Right. And then that's one thing I want to do in season 2 is to share more of these success stories of people who had challenges all growing up. A lot of people, other entrepreneurs I'm bringing on that had a lot of challenge growing up, working. In the end, they're all successful, because I think the one thing is, not to give up. And I really like that concept. Like you didn't have a choice. And I think a lot of us never had a choice. Well, we had a choice either to do something about it or complain and wallow. And I think a lot of high achievers, there's only one choice in that case. It's just to keep going and try.
Life's just too short, man. Life is so short to sit there and waste so much time complaining. I just don't see the point.
Yeah. It's a lot of waste of energy. And I don't know. I gotta admit though, there's quite a couple of decades, I would say I did that. And it was not fun for a lot of people around me.
No, me too. No one's perfect. Me too.
No. Well, and that's okay. You said that perfect. We're not perfect. We never are, never were, we never will be.
No.
And even as much as we know now, we're still going to make mistakes down the road. And concentrating on the what ifs of what could happen, just deal with it as it comes. As long as we're growing and doing something new and trying something new. That's what I keep telling people. What is your next success project? What are you goals? What kind of things are you working on right now?
I have no idea. I'm still, I have my mastermind group, which is awesome. We're a good group of people there. I'm revamping that. I'm working on more speaking. I'm doing a big project for a giant airplane manufacturer in the next few months. That should be fun. Keep me pretty busy. Just still speaking, consulting, writing. I have a couple of books in my head that I want to get on paper once the flights to Asia open up again and I can start doing those 14-hour flights where I can write nonstop. Those will start coming back as well.
Right, that's right. You write your books on the plane on long flights. Just hyper focus in that one spot and get it all done. Is that correct? Okay.
100%.
Well, I appreciate your time here, Peter, and I really like how you reframe ADHD into a strength, and we manage it. There's lots we can do. Your story has helped a lot of people. Your book has helped a lot of people, and your podcast has helped a lot of people. And I appreciate you sharing with us your story. And I think there's three key things here I want the listener to take away, is what you said is understand what you are good at and outsource the rest. Enjoy the moment you are in right away, and know what works for you. I know we didn't spend a lot of time on that, but you said know what works for you, because every ADHD is different in how you work, and what makes your dopamine kick work or how you structure your work is different. Figure out what works for you. And my experience, it'll work for maybe a year or two, but it's got to be tweaked every once in a while. But everyone's different. Figure out what works for you. Be proud about it, and just keep motoring on. Thanks, Peter.
Amen. All
and
right.
Talk to you later. Take care.
Take care.